Hürrem Sultan, known in the West as Roxalana, remains one of the most enigmatic and powerful women in Ottoman history. As the legal wife of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent and the mother of several future rulers and statesmen, she left an indelible mark on the politics of the 16th century. Her name evokes both fascination and controversy, but among the many questions that linger about her life, one continues to stir curiosity. What did Hürrem Sultan really look like? Across museums, auction houses, and online galleries, one can find various portraits that claim to depict this influential woman. Yet the authenticity of these images is often debated. Are they accurate likenesses? Were they painted by artists who actually saw her? Or are they simply romanticized fantasies inspired by her legend? In this exploration, we will dive deep into the world of Hürrem Sultan's visual legacy, analyzing surviving artworks, historical context, and cultural taboos that shape the way her image was constructed, remembered, and imagined. To understand why no confirmed, contemporary portrait of Hürrem Sultan survives, we must first step into the world she lived in. In the 16th century Ottoman Empire, the visual arts were largely governed by Islamic traditions. Although portraiture did exist, particularly in illustrated manuscripts for private court use, it was rare, stylized, and usually reserved for male rulers. Women of the imperial harem, especially high-ranking ones like Hürrem, were deliberately shielded from public view. Their images were not displayed, their names often not recorded, and their presence was cloaked in secrecy. In fact, it was considered both inappropriate and politically dangerous to portray royal women publicly. The Sultan's harem was seen not only as a private space but also a symbolic one. Even European diplomats stationed in Constantinople had very limited access to these women. Therefore, the idea that a painter could have sat in Hürrem Sultan's presence and created a lifelike portrait of her is almost certainly a fantasy. No known Ottoman artist created a portrait of Hürrem during her lifetime, at least none that survived. If such an image ever existed, it was likely destroyed or lost, or never made at all. Despite the absence of authentic Ottoman depictions, Europeans were deeply fascinated by Hürrem Sultan. Her story was sensational by any standard: a Christian slave girl who rose to become the Sultan's legal wife, defying centuries of imperial tradition. To many in the West, she was a dangerous seductress, a cunning manipulator, or a tragic heroine, depending on who told the tale. It was from this atmosphere of intrigue and speculation that European portraits began to emerge, especially in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. Painters from Venice, Italy, and the Habsburg court began to produce images of Roxalana, based on second-hand descriptions, political rumors, and often pure imagination. These portraits rarely aimed for historical accuracy. Instead, they reflected Western fantasies about the exotic East. Women in luxurious silk garments, adorned with pearls and rubies, wearing elaborate turbans, seated in opulent interiors. Hürrem was idealized as the embodiment of Eastern mystery and feminine power. Among the most famous and debated portraits of Hürrem Sultan is one attributed to the Venetian master Titian, or at least to his workshop. Created around the 1550s, this painting depicts a woman with reddish golden hair, pale skin, and regal features, wearing Ottoman-inspired robes. For centuries, this image was identified by collectors and auction houses as a representation of Roxalana. However, modern art historians remain skeptical. Although Titian did paint portraits of several notable figures, including Sultan Suleiman himself from imagination, there is no evidence that he or his students ever met Hürrem or had access to an authentic likeness. The painting more likely represents a European model dressed in vaguely Eastern attire. Yet despite the doubts, this portrait and others like it gained traction. Variants of the same composition circulated widely across Europe. Some are now housed in private collections, others have been auctioned at Sotheby's and Christie's for substantial sums. One such painting, sold in London in 2021, fetched over £126,000 under the label Portrait of Hürrem Sultan. Were these images of Hürrem? Almost certainly not, but they were believed to be, and that belief was enough to cement them into the visual mythology of Ottoman history. While paintings from the West failed to offer definitive evidence, several historical descriptions from contemporaries help fill in the gaps. The Venetian ambassador Pietro Bragadin, who served at the Ottoman court during the 16th century, described Hürrem as young, graceful, with red hair and pale skin. Another diplomat, Bernardo Novigero, noted that she was not beautiful, but very charming and witty. These sparse accounts consistently mention her hair, likely auburn or reddish blonde, and her fair complexion. Such features align with her likely origins in the Ruthenian region, modern-day Ukraine, and would have distinguished her visually among the predominantly darker featured women of the imperial harem. These written sources, though brief, help historians piece together a mental image: a petite, fair-skinned woman with vivid hair and an energetic presence. However, without visual confirmation, these remain only impressions, suggestive, but not conclusive. In recent years, the image of Hürrem Sultan has taken on new life through popular culture, most notably in the Turkish historical drama Muhteşem Yüzyıl, the Magnificent Century, where she was portrayed by actress Meryem Üzerli. The show introduced millions of viewers to Hürrem's story and sparked renewed interest in her life, power, and appearance. While the TV portrayal is fictionalized, it follows the popular European visual tradition: fair skin, red hair, and captivating charisma. Today, this portrayal dominates public imagination, shaping how new generations perceive the legendary Sultana. Museums and exhibitions continue to display portraits of Hürrem, many of them mislabeled or speculative. Despite scholarly caution, the demand for a face to match the legend ensures that her image, even if uncertain, will never disappear.